Max here from Metomic. Very excited to introduce another show and tell session. We're going to have Ben, our CTO, introducing a very highly requested, very much anticipated integration. Salesforce. This is going to be a tool that will let you use Metomic to monitor sensitive data, not only in your CRM, but also in your service desk and really any place in Salesforce that you may need data visibility. So in just a moment, we'll have Ben join, and he'll walk you through a very quick rundown of exactly how that integration works and how you'll want to use it to control your data. Okay, see you in a minute. Okay, take it from here, Ben. We're all good to go.
1 second, please. Just sharing my screen. Okay, thank you very much. I trust you can see my screen. It looks okay from here. I'm going to take you through a very quick whistle-stop tour of Metomic and Salesforce, why it is that some of our customers have asked for Salesforce integration with Metomic, some of the risks that are typical that you might find in a Salesforce installation, and how Metomic can help with those. Now, I trust most of you are familiar with Metomic on this call, but if you're not, I am happy to walk through any of the basics. So Metomic and Salesforce, we can skip the background, I think, on Salesforce because everybody here knows what Salesforce is. So I'm going to skip past this slide, and I'm going to go straight to why you should care. So a lot of people say Salesforce, typically, it's very private, it's very internal, and some people are unaware of the ways in which data can be overshared. One thing to point out is that Salesforce is naturally a very, very large magnet for sensitive data, and this is because of its nature as a CRM. You are, of course, encouraged by design to put as much sensitive data as much data as you can into Salesforce. But also, of course, this includes a lot of sensitive data. So the semi-structured nature of Salesforce itself, the fact that you can add any field to any record, your capabilities to define what data you store in Salesforce are pretty much unlimited. So this is a natural incentive. And the fact that it is customer-centric encourages, of course, your organization and the employees in your organization to store data about your customers, which is typically the largest source of sensitive data that companies deal with. It is very easy to overshare, and I'm going to show you why that is shortly. First, let's quickly talk about semi-structured data. What do I mean here? By design, you can create structure for the things that your company knows about. So for example, your customer support department, they can add a field, perhaps it's helpful to them, to your customer object to hold KYC data. Perhaps when they are engaging with the customer with a little chat support widget, they realize that they have to go through KYC validation, and one of the easiest ways they can do that is to stick a field on the object that lets them not have to ask the customer again. Now, of course, if your employees are not aware of the risks that that poses, there's nothing to stop them from doing that, which is where Metomic comes in with automated detection of sensitive data. Just to show an example of what that looks like, here's what it might look like to add an arbitrary field to the contact object. There are, of course, hundreds, potentially thousands of objects like this in your installation. Customer-centric design. This probably goes without saying, but by design, you are putting your data about your customers, about your accounts, about your finance reports as much as you can you're putting into Salesforce, and the customer centricity of it naturally invites sensitive data about your customers. Here you can see a screenshot of one of the accounts in our Playground installation, and of course we have contact details for all of the customers there, and unbounded inputs for sensitive data. Sources of risk. So why can this go wrong? There are two main ways in which data can be overshared in Salesforce, and oversharing is typically the actual problem. It's not the act of putting sensitive data typically into Salesforce, it's the act of it being visible to the wrong people. So there are two typical forms. One is oversharing internally. It is very common that Salesforce installations, because they're so large, they're not set up to create restrictions on which employees should be able to see which kinds of data. So for example, it would be very difficult using Salesforce itself without using something like Metomic on top to say that only my CS reps with level 1 validation are allowed to see KYC documents, for example. Whereas with Metomic, you would be able to set up that rule to make sure that KYC documents were not being put in the wrong place. So oversharing internally, the fact that very often your data is visible to the whole company. And then this is one that surprises a lot of people. All files that you upload into Salesforce can be shared publicly with a click. And we see a similar pattern to what we see in Google Drive, where it's very common for employees to see a file on the screen and they need to send that file. Perhaps it's an attachment on a contact object. They need to send that file to somebody else via Slack. And so they quickly press on, give me a link for the file, and it's made public. It's as easy as that. I'll show you what that looks like here. So oversharing internally, default visibility company-wide. You have to take manual action to avoid this. Of course, sensitive data typically doesn't need to be exposed to every employee in your organization. How does Metomic help with this? We give you visibility and remediation on content that should not be overshared. So we will show you which assets, for example, are overshared in your organization. Here on the right in Metomic, you can see an asset that is shared with 231 people internally. Now this one is okay. It's low risk. It's okay, and that's because there's basically no sensitive information in this. But we can tell you which ones are high risk using the sensitive data score that we apply to every asset that's pulled into Metomic. As well, we can tell you which employees are oversharing sensitive data frequently. So if you find that there is a problem with, say, and I don't mean to pick on the customer support departments, but if you find that your customer support representatives are oversharing KYC documents frequently, Metomic will tell you that that problem exists and can help modify their behavior with automated rules. Public file links, I mentioned this just a moment ago. This is what it looks like. Here we have a file. You may recognize this. This is the sample file that Salesforce puts in your account when you sign up to a developer account. And you have the button at the top right, which is public link. Now, this applies absolutely everywhere that you have a file. If you're familiar with Salesforce, you will be aware that it is very, very simple to add a file attachment field to pretty much any entity. The typical places that this happens is in chat or in contact details, but of course, anywhere. How does Metomic help with this? Again, visibility and remediation. So we will show you which files are public. For every file that we look at as Metomic, we get its visibility, and we make that visible to you in the dashboard. And we can automatically revoke public sharing for files that match certain rules. So here you can see a couple of high-risk assets that are publicly visible and almost certainly shouldn't be. And in the rules set up for Metomic, you have the option to enable an automated rule which will reduce exposure for any file that matches any advanced filters that you can set in the dashboard. So Metomic and Salesforce, visibility across your entire installation, all of your assets, all of your entities, and of course, automated rules and controls as standard. This, I believe, is available immediately. We've had quite a few requests for it. It is now at the point where we are very happy to roll it out to our customer base. And please talk to Max if you would like the Salesforce integration enabled in your account. Thank you very much. Max, can I hand back to you?
I think that's, I really don't know what I can add. I think that's perfect. We're happy to speak to anyone and everyone when you think this integration needs to be tested, when it would be valuable. And as usual, we have access. We can make it very easy to integrate this in under 5 minutes, test it out, and have initial scans done. Thank you so much, Ben. Thank you, everyone, for joining, and speak to you soon.
Thank you, Max. Thank you, everyone.